Well, good afternoon and welcome to a new stream. How come my stream deck's not working here? Hello. My stream deck is not working. I'll have to figure out why it's not. Time for another live update, developer reaction video. Just plugging in unplugging and replugging in the stream deck because usually some sort of a reboot's all you need to do. So this will be all caught up after this one. So I've caught up on 6 months worth of live reaction or reacting to the dev updates, and that's why for some reason not all of my stuff is loaded in for the stream deck. Stream deck. It's not like I use it all the time, especially when I'm doing stuff like this. But let's see if it's working now. Nothing. Oh, I have to do a reboot anyways. Apparently, there's a Windows update for something. Anyways, yeah. So we're all caught up, and we're just kind of letting people join the stream here live. We got one viewer so far. So, yay! I guess we'll just. I guess we'll kind of jump into it here. So yes, this is the February update. So there's Animal Husbandry and Py'Ray reveal. Apparently, I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. That's how I do these things. Is I make sure I have not seen them, and I give my live reactions, live comments, and/or commentary, and we just kind of roll with it. And of course, I respond to whoever's in chat. If you're watching this on YouTube or Rumble, please like, subscribe, share, whatever you need to do. Leave a comment. Let me know that you're out there watching these things and what you think. You agree or disagree with my takes? What are your thoughts?
Hello,
everyone. We got a new person.
And welcome to our glorious Ashes of Creation February development
update. We got a new person.
We hope that you are all well and safe.
Well, we've seen this guy before.
Today I am joined by, of course, our one and only creative director, Stephen Sharif. And we have a new face with us, Brian Langford, who is our executive producer and celebrating his 3-year anniversary today.
Yes.
Hey, everybody. It works. How are you?
Welcome, Brian.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. First, what do they say? Long-time listener, first-time caller.
I can't believe this lined up perfectly for your 3-year anniversary at the studio.
I know. It's amazing. So I'm honored to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
I think that people are going to have a fun time kind of listening in on the aspect of development that is production, right? And how much of a pivotal role you and the production team play in the process. So I think the audience is going to be pretty excited to hear from you.
Cool. Yeah.
And can we show puppers? He also has a dog.
Gosh.
I feel like we have to show the puppers.
Yeah, hold on. Sorry.
He doesn't want to
but it'll make motion sickness here.
Luna. Her name is Luna.
There's Luna.
She's so pretty.
She's sleeping.
She's like, leave me alone.
So, funny story about Luna is, I don't remember, when did we do our game-a-thon, Brian, where we were doing some D&D, some Pathfinder sessions, and then
that was back in November.
Oh yeah, back in November, right? We were playing some Pathfinder, and Brian brought Luna over, and she just had this spot in my chair, in my couch, where she loved laying on her back, and she would like fall asleep with her paws up like this, and she'd be dreaming, and her paws would be like kicking every now and then.
Aww, so cute.
It was pretty
That's
awesome.
Her, yeah.
It was pretty awesome.
Precious. Well, we'll get the show on the road here. As Stephen had mentioned, we will have a new segment today, but we will be covering our quick reminders.
The updated design to be design and engineering.
Update production, design and engineering, and environment art, as well as character art. And we have something kind of new to show you on the character art side. And then we also have our Q&A, as per usual. But before we get started with our reminders, Stephen wanted to set some expectations for today's stream.
I did want to give an update. I know last stream I had spoken about us showing off some of the character creator. just to give you guys a heads up early on in the show that will not be this today's presentation. That still needs a little bit more time in the oven. The team's doing a great job so far, updates wise. I saw a little bit of a preview of that yesterday and last week. It is coming together. It's looking really good, but we want to make sure that when we show off work in progress, that it is in a presentable state, right? Even though we are a transparent development, we do have to be conscientious of first-time viewers and people who aren't as up to date or following, religiously the project. So they see something and they walk away with an impression that might be, oh, that's the final product. So there is some element of that we have to take into account. Even though we do show work in progress, we do show things that are not yet complete. We always want to make sure that they're in a presentable format, and that still needs a little bit of work. So,
but we will be revealing something that no one has ever seen before today.
That is true.
So.
Yes, a little consolation.
Yeah,
consolation
stick around.
reveal.
Don't leave. We have a lot of cool stuff, and we're also going to be talking about something a little bit more in depth that we haven't really talked about as in depth.
We'll give you a hint that it is a character race that you have not seen yet. Yes, the final version of its face and whatnot. So it is one of the elves. We'll say that. We don't know which one.
Now you're teasing, now you're giving too much away. That's too much. Because everyone was thinking Tolnar. Now they're like, well, now it's not Tolnar. Way to go, Steven.
I'm sorry.
Maybe you won't have to wait as long, but we'll see.
I know.
All right. I'll get right away to the quick updates.
Spoilers,
and we'll get the show on the road. So first and foremost, we have
so
our
I
Unbreakable Bond set that will be stopping over on March 9th, 2022
so I bought
at
all
11
of them
a.m.
except
Pacific
the
for the new
bird.
one. So if you're interested in this awesome
I just
set,
didn't get the
definitely
bird.
go get it.
I'm in the caves.
It's very dwarven.
I live underground as a dwarf.
The
Dunir dwarf.
presence in this is very strong.
What do I need a bird for?
And I'm excited to see people utilizing these ones. These are going to be fun. And then beyond that, we also did, instead of like a dev discussion this time around, we actually showed off some new races as well, we revealed some new races and race models, as well as some updated models for you guys last live stream.
Yeah, I think that the Dunir has quite the distinguished
Dunir, Renkai, and Kalar models. Majority of those male models, other than the Dunir female. And we did ask you all for your feedback. So there are a whole bunch of forum threads available to you all. I think that there's one on the news or the announcement section that links to all of those, so super easy to find. Please give us your feedback. They've already been making some adjustments and changes based on your feedback, and you're actually going to see some of those changes today. So, we are taking everything to heart. We're keeping in mind the sliders that you guys want and things like that. So definitely go over there, toss us your feedback. We super duper appreciate it. And we may have some more threads to add to our collection after today's stream. Beyond that, just a reminder that we do have our content creator program applications open. So if you are a content creator, you're interested in that. And content creation does not just mean videos and streamers. That could be you are a fan or a fan site.
Yeah, so that's why I need subscribers and followers.
You're a cosplayer, whatever it may be. Feel free to apply to that program. We aren't closing applications yet, but when we do, we'll let you guys know, and we'll let you know when we're starting to invite people into the program. With that, I think we're going to swap over to our studio update. I know, sorry, no bingo card for you guys. It was a quick one. So, Steven, take it away with the studio update.
Yes, absolutely. Things have been going great over the month of February, actually. Luckily enough, this live stream actually is happening at the end of the month instead of the middle of the month, as we did in December, November. So I can give you a little bit more of an update. On the hiring front, we have been doing a great job. Our HR team with Stacy, Midori, Cameron have really been stepping up to the plate with regards to recruitment. We've had a considerable amount of hires over the start of this year. Between January and February, I think we've hired about 11 or 12 people, I think, actually. So it's been pretty nice. Some of those new hires, you're going to be probably seeing their contributions here coming up in the live stream pretty quickly. They've already gone off to the races and have started to produce some pretty cool things. I'm very excited about their addition to the team. So very happy with that.
Onboarding must be a pretty simple
on the development side, progress towards Alpha 2 has been making a considerable amount of progress. From the design side, we've gotten through a lot of the iterations that we wanted to see in Alpha 2 as part of our rescoping and
Stepped up a bit.
prototyping has now gone off and begun work on the combat side. You're
'Cause
probably
I'm
going to be
thinking
seeing some updates coming
fall.
over the next maybe one or two live streams. So that's going to be fun to see and
I'm
get
thinking
people's
late
feedback
fall
on.
for Alpha 2,
You've been
maybe.
seeing a lot of the character updates coming out of our character team for the races, the player character races. In addition to that, the environment team has has gotten a lot of work done on the biomes of Alpha 2, the playable area that we're going to have. Production has been doing a considerable amount of work on the roadmap towards Alpha 2, getting us greater navigational tools on that front as well. And engineering has been kicking away both on the feature sets that are going to be present in Alpha 2 that weren't in Alpha 1, expanding those feature sets, working on the network side, as well as the character customization and our back end from a microservices
a tail
team.
whip to the face.
So a lot of great work has been done at the studio. Very excited for the progress that
thank you
January
for
and February
following
has seen.
Ashes of
It's looking good as a prognosis going forward, just the amount of work that's getting done. So very excited about that.
And I know you gave a shout out to the HR team, but I'm just going to give one more shout out to them because it's something that you don't think about as like an employee every day, but we've changed some of like the UI stuff that we're working with on the back end for like PTO, like requesting PTO, seeing other team members, how the hierarchy, like the org charts work, like. And as a leader, being able to like see my staff stuff really quick, like, and the UI just is so much better. I appreciate all the work that they've been doing on that front.
Yeah, John and I are constantly talking about, because HR falls under the operational side of his purview at the company, and really he's been very impressed with the work that HR has been doing, and so have I, and just kind of seeing the happiness that it brings to our leads and to the rest of the company. Some of those changes and things, you don't give it a second thought unless it's bad, and then when it's good and you're not thinking about it, that's the perfect situation.
Yeah, it's like when all your employees are like, hey, this UI is weird, I don't know how to do this thing, and you're like, let me talk to them, figure it out. But they did a fantastic job with that, so appreciate it greatly.
Absolutely.
Awesome. And I know people, you want a studio tour. We're not quite ready for that yet, but when we are, we'll let you know. We are starting to get some of the little areas set up, and we will be doing starting up dev discussions at some point here. Once that is complete, Stephen has to approve the budget for those little areas that we're going to start decorating, and we'll start recording in those spaces. We're also trying not to interrupt people's work, so that's also the other side of it, is get you guys cool content, but also not disturb people while they're trying to do their stuff. So with that, I think we're going to swap over to chatting with Brian Langford, our special guest today.
Yay!
Mr. Executive Producer. New voice. Tell us let's first start with what is production? What does production do?
Well, actually, wait, before we even begin there, Brian, tell me about what brought you into the gaming industry.
Oh my gosh. That. Wow. My whole life I've spent playing games, from the early 80s with my dad playing board games up through and all, getting console games and PlayStation and computer games. And realistically,
fun fact about Brian, by the way, you mentioned board games. Brian is an exceptional tabletop gamer, whether it's board games or his own creation of a economy card game. I was playing with them.
It sounds like they got
he is a very exceptional. We were playing Lords of Waterdeep the other day, and I was just like, okay, Brian, get some.
I love Lords of Waterdeep. That's a good game. Passion has been always there for gaming and tabletop RPGs. So the blend naturally, of course, is D&D and fantasy games like that led me into wanting to be a part of the gaming industry. So I think maybe the best in the 90s and early 2000s, I played a ton of StarCraft and Diablo and Blizzard games.
There you go.
And I was
I've been playing Diablo
doing web design for a more corporate job. And I was like, I really just need to break into the game industry. And so I tried my hand to get into Blizzard for, I think, over a year and a half or 2 years. Finally got in there and stayed there for 11 years and switched over into the production track away from sort of web design and web development stuff. So yeah. And then, 11 years later, I left there and I went to NC Soft for a while, worked on Blade and Soul and a couple other titles there. And now I've found my new home, my home, my forever home.
Yeah.
So what is it about production that attracted you to want to be a producer?
So that's an interesting story. To some degree, anyways, I guess. I started in production in the cinematics group at Blizzard, and the high fidelity pre-rendered cinematics were just the thing of Blizzard at the time, right?
yeah.
So it was a opportunity to get in at one of the coolest jobs possible. And I got my legs learning from some pretty cool cats there in the production field
I
before
almost need to have
switching
my
gears, right? And before leaving
Minecraft
that group.
open for new
So
followers.
that's what really got me
get more
into
dogs.
production is being a part of that cool team. And then again, just once I learned all the production routes, it was my wings were intact. It was time
But
to
then
fly.
you guys would hear nothing but dogs barking
Yeah,
in the
that's pretty
background.
awesome. So most people don't really probably know what production provides a development team during development. How would you go about explaining that role and what your team brings to a development process?
I love that question because that's the question I always get, because people don't really, I mean, I know our community is super savvy, and so they probably
Yes.
already know this stuff, but the
perfect.
question I get from people that are
Firing up the
not,
community.
in gaming and in the industry and stuff, they say, what the heck does a producer even do? What do you do? What do you, so what we do for the most part, like our underlying most important mission is supporting the development team and the process of development, right? And that takes on several hats. But primarily it's making sure that we measure twice, cut once, look at things, work with leads to unblock any kind of problems they're having, set up dependencies so that people can keep, these buzzwords are going to kill me.
But it's true. I mean, they
totally
encapsulate true, right? What the process and the function is.
Yeah, 100%. It's just, yeah. So we basically work to it's my ship navigation analogy that I use a lot with you at work, which is we try our best to create the opportunity maps. We can show you the shortest route from point A to point B. We can tell you all the risk that's involved with going straight there. We can have you navigate around a different around a different way to get there, and tell you all the risks and opportunities and how it's a little slower but maybe a little safer. I don't know. I used to use the 3 navigation point thing, where it's like literally like there's a map, and then at the top of the map there's your location you're trying to get to. And if you go straight through the rivers, it's very rough water. You go around the ocean side, there's the mermaids that'll pull you off and distract you. Or you go around the other side and it's the Pirates Cove, and then you got like people trying to like shoot your ship out of the water.
Right.
But it's safer than the rapids, and it's that kind of thing. So
yeah, so
that's a big part of it too.
The navigation isn't always so much of estimates and timelines, but also dependencies, risks.
Yes.
The levers that you can play with when you're augmenting what the schedule looks like. Are we talking resources? Are we talking features? Are we talking time? These are the 3 components that
money,
a producer says these are
materials.
Your options. And that's always been such a benefit to me from your team and from you, has been being able to,
their job is to
prior to bringing on production, right? I'd always heard horror stories about production, and boy,
yeah, I was kind of going to say the same thing
because
I was thinking exactly the same thing, Yoda. That it didn't clarify. So what a producer does, and the simplest way of explaining would be from the point of view of like a movie, right? So a movie set or a television show, same thing with gaming. Their job is to get money. So secure the money. Now the money is primarily coming from Steven, so that's a pretty simple job. They are the guys that go out and scout set locations, scene locations. They're the people that get the contracts for use of locations and things like that. So for a video game, they're the ones that are out there securing software licenses, getting deals with computer companies. So they'll be dealing with the Unreal guys for the Unreal Engine, and yeah, they'll be basically they work with like the script of the game, right? So, but it's the production script. So where your lore people are all about the story, the quests, and stuff like that. What they do is kind of help make sure that you have all of the locations, right? So they're making sure that those two teams can work together and by sometimes being intermediaries and stuff like that. So they are basically organizers, for a big part of it. They help organize things, but they also provide a lot of direction. So, for example, a movie isn't filmed as you see it in the movie. So how they do movies is if there's multiple scenes in one location, then they film all of those scenes in that location before they move on. So maybe the movie starts and ends in the same place. Well, they'll film both of those parts, basically back to back, and then they'll go somewhere else and they'll film again, another bunch of scenes, and then it's the editor's job to kind of take all of that and splice it into the movie that ultimately we get to watch. But it's the producers that kind of work out that timeline, and so they're basically doing more or less the same thing here. So that's why when he's using his analogy of the navigation. Their job is to basically try and make sure that everybody's kind of working at the same location for whatever scenes need to get done, so that hopefully you're not going back for reshoots, because it's the reshoots that cost a lot of extra money. So I hope I did a better job of explaining it, so it makes a little more sense. But that's basically what their job is. So it's basically looking at, what character design do you need for a location? What race design is in a location? What art is in that location? So is it a boreal forest, for example? And it's inhabited by, Nakua. Why would they be there? I don't know. They should be on a beach somewhere, right? So they're going to make sure that you have the right stuff there. Boreal forest, probably more like an orc or something. Um, and then make sure that the quests align with the storyline and all of those things. And if they need assets, if they need specific assets for that area, that they're the ones that are going to the other departments and saying, hey, we need this XYZ, and then kind of make sure that all comes together. So
Right.
Without what you and Jacob and
And then it's up
Jonathan
to the
and
director
Thomas
to
and
make it all
Benoit
work.
and Kevin,
And the
Did I
editor.
what
miss
your
anyone?
team
No, I'm just
did I
kidding.
miss anybody? I don't think I
No.
missed anybody there.
I'm just messing with you.
What your team provides me and the leads with is so important when talking about the overall scheme of bringing something to a milestone completion, right?
Right.
And knowing when that milestone is going to occur, what are the risks associated with it, where are the dependencies, what are the blockers, helping communicate across teams,
and making sure everything's following
you
a
guys
timeline.
are in a sense the nervous system of the development body, right?
Yeah, I like that analogy.
Yeah.
And that's definitely what we do. And we're blessed to work with like a great team of people. And when we get in there into the trenches with people like the engineers, and we do identify, hey, these design docs they're coming over and they need to be fully spec'd out. We need to do feasibility checks. We need to then load in dependencies on tools and stuff like that. So that is very much what we're talking about with creating those navigation scenarios.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Very cool.
Yeah, super duper
That was a nice
important.
rundown of the production Do you guys feel like in the audience that you if you didn't know coming in what production does as part of a
well, like
development
Yoda
team,
here said,
do you feel like you
He
have a
feels
better
like he knows-
understanding now of the
he
role
knows
that
less
production
now than he did
plays in
before.
creating a thing like Ashes of Creation? Somebody said a
And-
producton.
And I think like a question that might be handy here, which is like, not a softball one, is more of when you do, encounter issues how do you guys work on resolving those, right? As things may come up or
They see a counselor.
Well, that's another
occur,
big
how
part
you
of what production does is we
predicted
are
them.
literally at the forefront of visibility and communication too. So when there are issues and we can foresee them coming, which is part of our makeup, if we see those things coming, it's our job to try to pull people in and talk to them. It's what is it? Like, lead by influence, right? Not with teeth. So it's get people in and go, hey guys, this might be a problem. Let's have a chat about what we could do with this, and then identify, like again, some scenarios that might pan out, and we just pick and choose by collaborative means.
All right.
Yeah, very important. Another aspect of production is that, you know, they're working constantly with the leads of each department and understanding what a particular sprint entails for their team, right? And in helping to kick off that sprint, and and identifying, you know, what it is that
It almost seems like
the
this
expectancy is at
episode
the end of a
needs to
particular
come
sprint
with
or milestone is going to be from a feature
with a
component, from
glossary,
a research
of
component,
terms. There's a lot of jargon.
and then incorporating that and translating that to the rest of the team so that the company as a whole has an understanding of the direction of a particular sprint or milestone.
Right. Well, we're glad that people, y'all feel like you have a better understanding of it. I know Stephen and I talk about production a lot. So we wanted to kind of give a face to that, as well as a little bit more of a background and understanding of like what it is. And if you guys have any questions about that, feel free to pop those in there. But
Yeah.
we will move on to our design and engineering because we still have quite a few pieces of content that we need to go over today. So tossing over to you, Stephen. First and foremost, what is design and engineering working on? And then I know we have kind of a little bit more of a deep dive that we're going to do on animal husbandry.
Oh, that's right. We're going to talk about animal husbandry. That's scary. Oh my goodness. So, you know, maybe do we have wasn't there's a little video on the animal
Yeah,
husbandry,
for
right?
the
that we
animal
can show?
husbandry
Oh,
part.
for the animal husbandry. Do you want me to get into that now, or you want me to just talk about other stuff, design other things?
Whichever one you want to do first. I
Okay,
think
yeah.
giving the
You're the
overview might
boss.
be handy, and
Sure.
then we can go into the deep dive.
Absolutely. As you guys have been aware over the last few live streams, we've been talking about the process post Alpha 1 and preparing for Alpha 2 has been a lot of work on the design side of going through systems and iterating upon some of those systems and you know, prepping some of the new tools for the Alpha 2 testing period for players to participate with. A big portion of that has been combat, has been class design. I think I have a 3-hour meeting today actually on some of the class changes or class hybrid class changes that we're looking to do for Alpha 2. A lot
Which
of
I'm
that
really
stuff has been
hoping
very fruitful.
will be in
Having
late
these
fall.
long discussions with the
At the,
different
you know,
design
I'm thinking at
pods,
the earliest. We're
designs
probably
broken
looking
up
at
into
fall
different
sometime.
pods that
Probably late fall.
relate to content. They relate to you know, narrative, points of interest, nodes, combat, you know, economy, itemization, crafting, artisanship. These pods all kind of have purview over what iterations are being made to some of those systems, some of those designs, and then they work closely with engineering to get those things implemented and developed from a feature standpoint. One of the really interesting discussions that we've had in preparation for Alpha 2 has been the rollout of the animal husbandry system. And I know we've talked a little bit about this in the past, what animal husbandry is, what its intentions are, but we really got into some so first of all, let me kind of set the stage just so you guys have an understanding, and maybe at some point, maybe post launch of
Do we get to
Ashes of
watch the
Creation,
animals mount
we
each other?
record all of our design discussion sessions, right? And I think it's really cool to have those things recorded, because at some
look at
point in the
those things,
future,
eh?
it might be an opportunity that we show those recordings.
We
I don't know. I
also,
think
we also,
for posterity's sake.
we also
Hold on
have,
now.
we also have a bloopers folder where we keep silly stuff that has happened, like funny bugs and things like
Yes.
that we want to share with you guys, you know, later when it's more fun to make jokes on it, because we have a, you know, a fully fleshed game for you to love and adore.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We can look back on the funny moments.
So let me set the stage for this. So one of our awesome designers, a gentleman by the name, distinguished
I like all the little
gentleman
butterflies
by
and
the name of Bucky Collins. He was the main contributor of this proposal on animal husbandry, right? So you have to understand some of these design ideas or changes as they're being presented to the rest of the design team can
Those are very
really get
interesting
deep
looking
into
creatures, I'll give 'em that.
some real world scientific research. And on the animal husbandry side, there was a significant amount of like genetic research and how we can take that genetic element of real life and what what they represent in actual husbandry over into the game. Because in design, first and foremost, you're looking to make something that's fun. But if what you make that's fun can also have some roots in realism in the real world, right? That makes it much more believable. The suspension of disbelief is not as great a barrier. So that oftentimes can be a starting point. So Bucky comes in to the design meeting with, there's about, I don't know, 12 or 13 designers that are sitting around kind of getting ready to hear this proposal, because sometimes the designers will be either listening to the pod alignment or they'll be just kind of looking through our Confluence and just checking out some of the proposal documents as they're getting created. And this particular proposal doc on how to adjust animal husbandry for Alpha 2 was like 20 pages long, and they're supposed to be relatively shorter, but this just had so much reference material from real world genetics that was being brought over into the proposal. So Bucky shows up at the proposal meeting, and he pulls out a lab coat, and he puts on a lab coat with his doctor glasses, and he's like, "Good afternoon, everybody. I'll be your presenter today. My name is Dr. Bucky. You may refer to me as Dr. Bucky."
Wait, did he really do this? Don't
Yes,
tell me.
he did.
Oh my God, I love you,
amazing.
Bucky. That's
He really-
hilarious.
He
That's
really
so
did it.
funny.
You gotta have a little fun at
I
work.
was dying, actually. It was
That's
so great.
so
It was
hilarious.
so great. So anyways, talking to you guys a little bit about the meat and potatoes of animal husbandry and what you can expect to see in Alpha 2 from this system, right? One of the big components of animal husbandry is going to be taming. We talk about our artisan system, and you guys know this, that it exists within three main branches of gathering, processing, and
put on my sweater so I can
crafting.
get chilly in
Now,
here.
of course, let me caveat
Don't know
this:
why it's getting
anything
chilly
I
in
say
here.
here is subject to change.
Temperature's consistent.
But with that being said, taming is one of the gathering professions that players will be able to use to both locate, capture, and also tame wild creatures in Barrow. Tame creatures can then be trained and bred, refined with the animal husbandry profession, right?
If they can be
So
bred,
genetics
can
in
they be toast?
animal husbandry will follow
Little
the
PB&J.
will follow a Mendelian model of real life genetics overlaid with magical tools that help understand and influence the process of these breeding of these animals in a fantastical way. Creatures will have characteristics that are determined by their genetics. There will be a multitude of traits that are related to appearance, performance, combat efficacy, even the different abilities that breeders can bring forward in a particular mount or pet.
Wonder how many varieties.
So
you
no
can
two
get.
creatures in Vero will be the exact same, meaning identical twins, right? You have a stat block that's going to be associated with certain combat stats or speed stats, endurances, and then you're also going to have ability systems that get overlaid on top of those from a mount's perspective or from a pet perspective. You'll be able to breed creatures, study the offspring, and make informed decisions when the features you want to pursue in the next generation become apparent in the offspring you've created. Species will have different traits. Creatures will have a wide variety of traits and characteristics, strengths, and weaknesses within their species. The best version of a species will need to be blended from creatures from many places across Vero, right? So it's not going. There is going to be an element of geographic location being relevant for the creation of certain types of breeds. That's important, and players will have to discover that. For example, the best horse would need speed from desert horses, right? The coat and the health from tundra steeds, and the size and strength of ones that might be in the riverlands. These types of things go towards creating the necessary offspring that can then create the type of mount you're looking for. And powerful
it's
traits
definitely
will
going
be
to be
hidden in rare
multi-layered,
spawns through rare mutations as well.
multi-generational.
Mastery in animal husbandry will involve unlocking greater crossbreeding potential between species to create more fantastical creatures. And there's even the potential for entirely new species to be unlocked by master breeders who are pushing the limits. Lastly, once these creatures are actually born, there is an element of raising the creature. So animals need to be raised from birth to adulthood and trained for the intended purposes, either as a mount, a pet, a beast of burden, or livestock, right? Animal husbandry feeds a lot of these different aspects. And you'll be able to specialize
in the
your
whole
focus
animal
as an animal
husbandry thing?
husbandrist.
I have a feeling it's going to be a little wobbly over my head.
To one of those particular ends. Players have a
More
multitude
like a
of activities.
rancher. You're like ranching.
Or a rancher. There you go. Yeah, a
Yeah.
rancher. A husbandrist.
I
don't know,
have
the
a feeling
husbandrist.
it's
No,
Yeah,
probably
for
going
sure.
to almost
a
require
multitude of
a
activities
dedicated
to
guild.
perform, like feeding, cleaning the creatures, taking them out for practice rides, training them to fight monsters, etc. This period is very important, however, the training period, because it will have the greatest influence on the resulting quality of the genetically determined stats and abilities of the creature once they reach adulthood. So basically, as you're discovering these different genetic paths when pairing different animals, and the offspring is born, it will have a window of where a stat block will land, but where it lands will be determined by the training phase, by raising the creature up. And that's going to be an important aspect. So that's just to give you a little bit of
like it's
insight
going to take
kind
a
of
lot
on
of
where
dedication.
some of these professions are going, especially animal husbandry is a big profession, right? And it lives across two worlds, from gathering to processing, with the taming aspect and then the actual
I think
husbandry.
I'll just supply, herbs and potions.
These are things that in Alpha 2 we're going to be
what I'll
needing
be,
to
is
collect a lot of data
herbalist,
on, because
alchemist.
that's something that is going to be important to see how players interact with this, and how relevant is it across our artisanship system. Is there too much of an emphasis on animal husbandry, right? Is that profession just larger than many of the other professions, and having kind of an equilibrium between those things?
Yeah, actually, there were people asking if this was going to be a more like a deeper profession versus the other professions, like the comparison, or can they expect all the other professions to have that much like depth within them?
So that's a great question, and honestly, it was a concern among our design team when we were discussing this, right? And part of boiling down the husbandry profession to something that's more equitable with the rest of the professions, or vice versa, bringing up the other professions to something that's more equitable with husbandry, right? I think the question is a good one. I think we're going to find that out. I think by offering specialization in one of four directions: mounts, pets, livestock, and I can't remember the fourth. I'm sorry. I had like this crazy, and the beast of burdens. I think allowing players to specialize in those directions will mitigate the comprehensive nature of the profession as a whole.
So there will be like a subsidiary to
pretty much. You'll be able to specialize in one of those four.
Could you specialize in all of them, or would you only be able to specialize in one? I just know that people are going to ask that.
Sure, it's a great question. So there's going to be some limited function to how many professions players can master, and within the animal husbandry system, that might also be true, right? Where when you choose one of those specializations, you may have some base access at a low level across all four, and then as you progress further in one of those, similarly to how we've architected the artisan system as a whole, you will only be able to specialize in one.
Okay.
But it is a fair concern, and it is something that Alpha 2 is intended to test.
I can see full guilds.
People are wondering if fish would be included in those breeding. Like, are those considered monsters or creatures?
So there will be
Is it separate
aquatic
than
creatures
fishing?
that are, there will, well, not specifically fishing, but there are aquatic creatures, both from a pet and mount perspective, that you'll be able to breed as well. So
Then beyond that, people had asked, will there be RNG elements, or is it more like what you're saying, where you need to go to these locations and research these places to bring these breeds together?
well, anytime I would imagine we're discussing genetics, there's going to be an element of RNG, right?
Yeah.
So, this is just scratching the surface of what was discussed as part of the system itself. But there are elements of recessive and dominant genes and the discovery of certain types of characteristics that mounts you breed will have.
That'll be an
based on that
interesting
RNG
table
element.
to
You can
take a look at.
increase the chances there based on proficiency.
On the wiki
You can
or
also
whatever.
increase the chances based on method, based
'cause you're
on
gonna have
resources.
basically the
So,
genetic
it's not something that
outlines of
is
all of these
a
different
pie in the
creatures.
sky RNG number, but rather
and
something
then
that you can
players
hone
trying
over time.
to
And then the next question
craft.
is in regards to like the recipes for, I don't know if you'd call it recipes, but the recipes for breeding different creatures. Will there be like a central place for people to share those recipes, or, anything like that, or a place where they can sell discovered
Yeah,
information?
that's a good question. I'm not sure that there are going to be recipes per se. Instead, what we're thinking about with the husbandry system is going to be a user interface panel that gives kind of a record of your successes and failures with certain types of breeding attempts, right? And then from there, if you choose to share that information with other individuals, you can, of course, but it's not something that's going to be streamlined through an interface that we would use.
Should be a
for the
lot of
player. It'd be on
data
their own.
mining.
Look, you guys use the word recipe. I'm just copying your question.
Somebody said sexapies.
And for those who maybe didn't catch everything that Stephen had mentioned before, we will have this up on our YouTube channel so you can replay it and relive it, because he did already talk about, taming and raising creatures and basically how the system works.
I like how Georgia Build said, "Oh no, what happens to the failures?" Well,
you have a little graveyard in your
you have
freehold.
farms and you use animal byproducts all the times across
There
the
you
farm,
go.
right? You never
Yeah.
let anything go to waste.
There you go.
You're
All
gonna
right.
need
Anything else you want
leathers.
to talk about on design front or engineering front before we move on to all of our lovely art that we have?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, cool. And thank you, chat, for
By the way, Brian,
asking a lot of great follow-up questions.
Brian, as you've been, you've been a part of most of the design meetings as well. What is the profession that you are most at home with in an MMO?
Ooh.
Yeah, because he hasn't
Wow,
talked in a
what
while.
a great question.
He's like, why do you put me on the spot,
Good to
man?
keep him on.
No, that's cool.
Well, I know Brian is a huge MMO.
It's like
gamer,
that one.
Yeah,
I think the
no,
last time
that's
Bacon
totally
was
true.
on.
And you're not gonna like the answer though.
Oh no, I love
wanna
it.
know the
I want to
answer,
hear it.
yeah.
I want to hear it.
It's anything that has to do with the enchanting paths.
Oh, there you go.
Nice.
Okay.
Why wouldn't you like that answer?
I love enchanting.
Yeah.
Now, are you the type of enchanter that likes to have like a little bit of risk and reward of like possibly destruction, but for high return?
Yeah. Well, that that is lineage and that is Ion and
I know.
Yeah. Right. As long as it's not pay to win, yes.
Yes, there we go.
I'm fine with losing a weapon
truly
forever.
to the people.
Pug.
I am not okay with like insurance programs where
yeah.
you have to buy like a scroll, and when your sword breaks because you over enchanted it or whatever, you can turn in the insurance.
100%. I can't tell you how many times in like a lineage or an Ion or an Archage, I had a guild member who was like, "I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna over enchant it," and we're just like, "No, you shouldn't. Do you have a backup?" And he's like, "No, YOLO."
YOLO.
And then they'll enchant it, blow up, and we never see him again. He's gone. Just like,
especially if you're like you use it on your best in slot item that you had to work really hard to get.
Oh yeah.
Awful.
Oh my God. That's what happens. Everybody here in the chat knows it. They have some over enchant Stan that went and over enchanted his only piece of gear, blew it up, and never was heard from again.
What about you, Stephen? Do you gravitate towards a specific type of profession?
Ooh, that's a good question. I really like farming. Like I loved just the act of like planting something, waiting for it to grow, and then harvesting it. I
Yeah, so I'll be a
especially liked it if
herbalist
there are
alchemist.
okay,
So I'll
okay, I'll
probably
take this
run a
back.
farm
So
so I can
I do
grow a
like
bunch
that. I
of
think that's
stuff.
relaxing. Like after I'm out
So I can
adventuring or
sell it.
something, I just go to my home, I'll literally role play, lay it, like sit in my chair or lay in my bed, get some rested experience, and I'll just watch a little YouTube video or whatever. Get up, go check the like grounds. Do I need to pick up some herbs and shit? And excuse me.
Language.
I know. Sorry about that. But then I also love
gonna-
fishing.
Leave you out.
Yeah, I know. Thank you. Thank you. I
Wasn't
also
quick
like fishing. I think fishing's a lot of fun as well. And the games that I played, especially like I liked Arc Age's
Good,
sports
because I
fishing.
dropped
thought
an
that was kind of cool.
bomb earlier.
Um,
So
But yeah, I kind of like farming. I think farming's my favorite thing to do. I
Yeah,
like
so-
it when you can farm and get a lottery. Like there were in one of the games, there was like a thunderstruck tree, right? And you could, put down a bunch of like cedars or whatever. And I always anticipated coming back to the farm and it's like, am I gonna get a thunderstruck or what's gonna happen here? And then yeah, you didn't get any. But I do like that aspect.
Yeah, those
I-
those ones
Yeah.
with the mini games, like
and then
those
they
are,
made it where you can just buy them.
when I say gravitate towards like enchanting, there's less of a mini game ever in enchanting. It's always recipes and it's collection, right?
Oh yeah.
But doing the mini games that's a lot of fun. That's good times in MMOs.
I have
Oh, yeah.
PTSD from mini games because I used to make mini games, and like
Mhm.
when I was a designer back in the day, we did a lot of like flash mini games. So I have qualms. I like playing them as a player, but creating them was a pain.
Oh, yeah.
I think for me, I always change it up. It depends on like the class I'm playing in the game that I'm playing and what's the best, like what I'm going to benefit from the most is what I normally go with. But I do like farming. I feel like farming always ends up being something that's like off to the side. It's not specific to your class stuff. Whereas I find with class, I always end up either being like a leather worker or a blacksmith or something like that to be able to benefit from it for my character
Mm.
and my guild.
Yeah, I definitely want to see a benefit from any system I interact with. Some beneficial progression, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, leave a comment
right.
in chat
Well,
or
let's
in the
move
comment
on
section.
to
What
our
is your
environment,
profession?
our
By the way,
You wanna
real
do?
quick, is
Yeah,
that
you wanna do.
buffalo as like very small or is the fox
It-
very big? In this?
It is very small. I actually was thinking that, but I didn't think he had time to like rescale it. So I was like, I'm not gonna make him redo the scene. But I was like,
Is that like
he's
a
very
pygmy
tiny.
buffalo or water buffalo or a giant?
He's a baby.
He's a pocket
He's
buffalo.
a baby bull. Just
He's a teacup
Yeah.
buffalo. Okay, got
oh, teacup buffalo. That's actually kind of adorable. We do need little tiny versions.
Those
These guys
guys
are
are
the coolest.
huge.
These are my favorite creatures so far.
Whatever that is.
They're just so
it. Oh yeah,
cool looking.
the big boys,
Yeah.
chunguses.
The chunguses. All right, moving on to environment art. You've heard us talk about the Riverlands actually a lot throughout this stream already. If you go back and replay it and put all the pieces together, maybe you'll get bonus points from me. But this is kind of the area on the map that we're going to be talking about right now. And I'm going to show you basically what our environment team has been working on is really focusing on the biome work. Specifically, they have a lot of things to showcase on the Riverlands perspective. And this is the ancestral home of the Aelin humans, currently home of the Kalar humans. So if you are a Kalar, maybe this will be very intriguing for you. So I will show you some.
Yeah, I just went through a biome review yesterday with Environment
Looks
and the
very
Art Council,
wet.
and I was looking at these
It means
concept
the
pieces
caves
that
will
Richmond
be
did, and
damp.
I was like, wow, these definitely
must
capture
stay
elements of our Riverlands
moist.
that we want to have,
Not very.
but even more so
not very good for
incorporating
the
some
denier.
additional fantastical elements, right? Like there's
Yeah.
one of my most, and I don't know, you
that
guys
art looks
obviously
really
are
good though,
Lord of the Rings
as
fans, you've seen Lord of the
always.
Rings.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite scenes is in the Fellowship when they're going down that river and they come across those ancient statues that are just like giant
With
statues and they're like
Palantir,
putting their
or no?
hand out. You remember that?
Yeah.
Remember that
yeah.
scene when they come across those two
We
giant
have
statues?
some big
Oh, I
statues
know,
like that
I
in
know.
game. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Some
And
really cool ones.
those that like moment to me was super was
Like iconic for
really
you.
iconic in that series, right? And having elements that are incorporated as part of our biomes, right? Not even just from a point of interest standpoint, but just from a set dressing perspective for the territory itself, having big fantastical elements of that, I think lends itself to telling a story of a fantasy realm.
Oh, 100%. It's
That's
things that
good.
you can't experience like
Yeah, I'll
in
have to do a
real life,
reboot
right?
after this
But
video.
still feel almost realistic in a fantastical sense.
But the
Um,
server
Yeah, so
should
this
be
is going to be one
up
of
and
the
running.
primary biomes.
I don't know if it's world's been
there's
reset
8
or
that
not.
are scheduled for for Alpha 1. And the Riverlands is going to be a big portion of that.
Yes, and it is a very extremely like fertile alluvial plain. There's lots
Alpha
of
2, Alpha 2. I'm
yeah.
sorry, I said Alpha
Yeah,
1.
Alpha 2.
It's
Sorry.
very fertile.
There's gonna be like a lot of lakes, rivers,
So boys, keep your seeds to
estuaries,
yourself.
to create networks of like picturesque hills surrounded by vast river networks. So you're kind of getting a little depiction of those elements in
Crypts
these,
there.
as well as the land is kind of broken up regularly with modest forest and little rocky outcroppings, and eventually they'll drain down to a coastal area. So if you look at the whole entire map, you can kind of see where those rivers and those lakes kind of go down to, all reminiscent of classic pastoral farmlands. So very, very fertile lands that will be great for farming, kind of fitting right perfectly into the animal husbandry topic that we were talking about before. This would be a great place to have your creatures kind of like grow up and have a lot of things for them to eat, and being able to
Wonder how you're
provide a
going
lot
to
of
keep them
crops
all
and
in your
farming for
freehold,
yourself.
because your freehold's only so big,
For sure.
and you're going to
Moving
need a
on from
place to have your
there,
animals.
we have
for
some
the husbandry.
Py'Ray node concept art. These are really rough, so very early stage exploration of these.
And it still looks really
They're
good.
experimenting with a lot of structure types, node layouts, materials, to begin to understand what works and doesn't work. Specifically for the Py'Ray and the Renkai, we have to keep in mind a lot of the mode design the node design limitations, including like racial influence, transfer, layout restrictions, location influence, etc. So these are really complex problems that they're trying to solve and keep in mind as they're building out these areas, especially for the unique races. So early on, they're just trying to kind of test their waters, see where things are, and see where Stephen wants to kind of align everything.
Yeah, I think the big component here when looking at these concepts for the Py'Ray is essentially, their architecture is infused almost with the surrounding trees and vegetation, right? And then how do we encapsulate that from a node perspective in biomes that may not be forest oriented, right? You're going to have an outcropping of these large tree structures that are integrated with the building types on the footprint of the node itself. So you may have an outcropping of trees in the middle of a desert. How are we, these are the types of questions that
we'll have to,
some of these cultures and architectures, the way that the node
have
the node
chat
system
on
is built,
Valheim there too,
that they can exist
we want to build
across
again. I like the island idea we've been
spread of
doing.
18 biomes, but at the same time have to represent the cultural influence of these cultures that are intrinsically a part of a specific biome.
Those of you
like
watching on YouTube
Py'Ray,
or Rumble,
right?
I host
Now,
an RL
the
Craft
Py'Ray are
server
the
for
extreme
Minecraft,
example from a culture perspective,
and a
because
Valheim
they're
server,
the one that's most integrated
they're
with
both
this
open
idea
to members of my
trees
Discord.
You're looking at. This one is
This is the Renkai, yeah.
That's where all the server details are.
That's something that these concepts and those concepts were done by Joe.
Hopefully, be a good positive member of the community.
I believe
we appreciate
for
that.
Py'Ray.
Joe was for the Py'Ray, and then the Renkai was Ryan.
For the Ryan Richmond. Yeah. The Renkai
I wrote it down this time, so I know exactly who wrote it.
Nice,
who did it.
Perfect, very good. Yeah. The same thing is true here with these assets, right?
Yeah, those look really good.
Part of the biome that the Renkai are accustomed to is a more swamp or marsh oriented, right? So they have these almost stilt-like foundations on some of the assets because they're intended to sit above that marsh type area. Well, how does that translate when we're moving into a desert? Or it's at a node in a tundra, right? Those are elements that have to be taken into consideration as part of the environment's purview of
maybe they just
creating
bring a lot of water with them.
transition between the influences of these cultures and the biomes in which they exist, which can be diverse.
Yeah, so the environment team has been very, very busy. Beyond that, they are obviously are continuing work on, props. So here are some concepts for some wagons for the Bayloon that they're working towards. So you can kind of see a few different versions of this.
They're like little taxi
that they're
carts.
working on.
I totally felt like these were rickshaws.
Yes, yeah, rickshaws. Exactly.
I could like,
Yeah.
instead of a mount, you have like an NPC character
Just
pulling the
yeah,
thing.
yeah. Pull my carriage, sir. And then, beyond that, we also have, environmental elements like moss and things like that. Those all need to be created. The little tiny things that you never think about, perhaps. But
it all
we're
has
paying
to be
attention
made,
to the
right?
little
It all
details.
has to be produced.
I know. As
That's
you're
amazing.
exploring the world, keep an eye out for those pieces because our artists are amazing.
I like Era says a mossy house, please. I would take a house with some of that moss.
I think we have a few houses with moss on them.
Mouses, not mouses.
I almost said mouse. Yeah, no mouses in your house. And then we have some more Hukilar banners. So I think we've shown a few of these, but these are more like the really fancy looking ones. Very beautiful.
Who did that moss?
I didn't have a name for the moss, but I know Jeff did the Bayloon wagons.
I thought you wrote down all the names.
Well, they didn't give me names for everyone.
Oh, that's sad.
But I could maybe figure it out. But yeah.
It's not the properties.
Check. Figure it out.
Oh no, it's okay. You're fine.
You sure?
Yeah, we can check when we start talking about the race.
Yeah, I think environment didn't really share the names for some of those elements. In the future, I request that from Tristan.
There we go.
All right, next up. So this one, I don't know if you want to do some prefacing before we reveal something that no one has ever seen before. Yeah, on the character art side.
All right, let us preface. So, first,
they're going to drag out the Talnar forever.
Rework of the Py'Ray character race was spearheaded by Manny, I believe. That's correct. Yes. And Manny has done a great job with the reveal of the VEC. So to give you a little context, obviously character races are super important, right? These are the choices that we make at the onset of our adventure in an MMORPG. What race, not just mechanically, aligns with our
only race you need.
decisions, if those races have game mechanics behind them.
All you need is the
stat perspective. But visually and culturally and historically, what do these races represent? So it's important that visually they're distinct, right? And everyone's seen, fantasy games do elves. So everyone's seen them do humans. Everyone's seen them do orcs, right? There's an established kind of expectation almost behind what these traditional fantasy races represent.
Well, because that's how Tolkien made it.
Because whenever you're creating a new IP or a new story,
created
or a new
the
world,
modern
a new universe,
orc and elf,
a realm in which things don't have to always be the norm, you can take a little bit of creative liberty to redefine some of the aspects of a particular race. And that can be a good thing because it's something that is
Blizzard does get credit for making trolls
Rastafarian to the realm that we're building, the surroundings that you have, right? So what we wanted to do was push a little bit more on the unique side of what the Py'Ray would look like from a visual perspective. And I believe in Manny's creation that you're about to see here, there were some elements a little bit more closely aligned with being kind of one with nature. And that's, as you saw in the concepts, some of the thought
what he's
process
telling us
behind their architecture.
Is the Py'Ray
so
got
it
into
would
a
make
little
sense that it would be a thought process included
farm animal
in
action.
The actual visual representation of that character race. So this is the first time that you will be seeing the Py'Ray character race.
Called it.
Let us show it.
Actually, it looks more like its roots.
So
there
beautiful.
it is.
This is like roots coming out of her face.
There is the Py'Ray
skin looks kind of barky
character in all her glory.
Looks kind of Latina.
And we also have some of the modeling work we'll show you in a little bit that's
Got
begun
kind of a Latina
as well. But just to give a little bit more context here. So I can see, I think that you guys like it.
I don't think they like it, Stephen. I think they're not fans.
So that is
I do have some questions that I want to, I know that they're going to ask is, for instance, do I have to have antlers as a Py'Ray character?
Sure, that's a great question. Yeah. And that is really the predominant characteristic that stands apart between what traditional wood elves from a fantasy sense have been and what our approach has been with Ashes of Creation.
Far, it doesn't look like I have to go to work
so the answer
today.
is yes. Players will have to have some form of these antlers /
secondary side of that. I know we haven't revealed Tulnar things, but how will that be balanced in regards to Tulnar having horns versus Py'Ray?
Sure, I think that
well, that looks more like bark.
They
it looks more like
with
it's
each
organic,
other, right? There's obviously an element of the silhouette that needs to be distinct and unique, because from just the fact that we do have PvP in the game, you always want to offer a visual threat assessment, knowing the characters you're coming up against, right, from a distance. Horns can be a part of that visual silhouette, but I think they'll be distinct enough that players will be able to recognize the difference. Additionally, one thing of note, you asked, players are interested, do they have to have these? They do. However, from a character customization standpoint, these will be adjustable, right? Their length, their size, their width, their color, whether or not they'll have features like flowers that can bloom on the actual antlers, if they have buds, right? How do those antlers interact with climates as you move into them, right? Do they bloom in a
the
temperate
artists are
zone?
losing their minds right now.
No,
Stephen,
we have already
Langford's
showed
over there,
this feature.
Production features.
That's been scoped already.
We have already scoped that. Remember, if you guys will recall, about two live streams ago, we showed, what's the little turtle dude's name?
Terrapin, is that the terrapin turtle?
The terrapin turtle.
Terrapin turtle.
Terrapin tortoise. We showed you that with different weathers and time of day, that the effects around the little tree stump, right, change. The same can be true potentially for character races as well. And as an example,
that was really cool. I really like that feature.
These antlers,
really, really cool.
I think would be an interesting component. Maybe they're bioluminescence, right? Maybe you can unlock these types of character featurettes later in the game as well. But anyways, those are adjustable. And players can play with them. And as a matter of fact, they don't have to be symmetrical either. They can be asymmetric in those adjustments. I think that'd be interesting as well. So yeah, let's take a look at the model of this.
Yeah.
The work now keep in mind, this is work in progress. So the model component here is still being created in preparation for Alpha 2. And this is just a rough blockout.
Yeah.
Yep. This is a sculpt that was it Atkins that did this, or who's
no? This is the same. This is
Manny as well.
Yeah, this is both
awesome.
Manny, I believe.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. So this is the model starting to get worked on. You will see this be very close to the image you just saw once it's complete, and then once we get it hooked up and put into the character customizer, you're going to be able to see just the level of flexibility and customization that's going to be provided by our engineering character teams. They're doing.
Yes, they are. And then beyond that, and I'm sure we're going to get your guys' feedback on that front, so we'll probably
definitely a nice
the
twist,
community
that's for sure.
Managers put up something for you, but we'll definitely want your feedback on this beauty. So definitely let us know what you're thinking.
Absolutely.
I like
by the way, you guys gave
great
unique feedback on the VEC and the character races post last stream. So by all means, please go give some commentary as you did before on our Reddit, on our forums, on Twitter, whatever, and tell us what you think about the Py'Ray. Is this
forums
a race
is definitely the easiest
for
us to consolidate the feedback. So if you can post there, that would be super handy for
Hey,
our
but
team.
I want them everywhere.
Right? They can be everywhere. If we're gonna gather it, it's just I'm
Everywhere.
letting them know like it's the easiest for us to gather when it's on our forums.
I like it when they share across their social medias
For
and
sure.
people get to see things that they might not see if they're just on our forums. So go and talk about it.
Yes. All right. Next up, we
It's
have
all about the hype.
some updates for our Kalar Renkai based on some of the feedback that you all provided. So I'll start with the Kalar. Oh, ooh, and we have our female version, which is the first time we're showing her updates as well.
Oh, so these are some of the skin updates, yeah?
Yes. And the first time they're seeing the female Kalar.
Really?
She looks
Yeah.
stoned.
Well, with the new updates.
The
Yeah.
redone. Yeah.
I thought she's been crying a lot.
I love her hair.
Oh, you can see
Yeah.
nipples.
Hair's
Her hair's
good.
really pretty.
Skin update's great.
Of course, I noticed the nipples.
Did they have those types of bikinis in the Middle Ages?
I don't think so.
Brian, did they?
You're gonna change it up?
No,
I don't know.
I'm
I'm gonna
just-
go
I'm
research
just
it.
kidding. Just
Research bras. Go.
Medieval bras.
I think I
Medieval
have actually
bikinis.
searched that before for a purpose of something like this before. It's funny. All right. Then we
Somebody
also
Eyes
said,
have
are
somebody
pretty
said,
red, like, you must have-
LOL,
they must
people
have
pooped in
colds.
buckets, dude. Did they in buckets? I don't know if they'd waste a good bucket like that. I just think they did it outside.
they just like open their window, poop out the window.
There you go, or in a hole.
Next up, we have some Renkai updates as well.
Oh yeah, they made him kind of scaly.
Oof. Look at him.
He looks so good.
He's a chunky boy.
He's a beefcake.
It's almost like
Yes,
yeah,
he
like a
is.
snake scale almost.
He's a beefy one. Yeah, I like the influence, almost what appears to be somewhat scaly on the arms and the back and the skin a little bit. I mean, it looks
Make
like
it a little
you know,
thicker.
he may have some type of influences of Dragonborn in his lineage or something. I don't know. That's maybe something people can theorize about or chat about if the Renkai or their parent race, the Kaivek, had some history with a dragon at some point.
Oh, maybe. I wonder.
I don't know. It's kind of weird.
It's
Yeah.
really funny because someone asked us in PI, they're like, "Are they dragons?" And we're like, "You don't know."
Yeah, and doesn't their banner also
look at
have
the
a
eyes.
dragon
I mean,
in
it's
the
like a cat eye or
in
dragon
the
eye.
iconography?
Maybe.
That's interesting. It's an interesting take, an interesting idea. We have to explore that one a little bit.
Okay. Beyond that,
It could
we
just
do
be
have-
dry skin.
It could just
Maybe he
be
needs some
dry
lotion. This guy needs a Bath and Body Works.
Beyond that, we've got some new stuff to show you on the costume front. Obviously, our
Well, they gave
artists
her
not
quite the
only
tight
are
bottom, didn't they?
creating new models and updating models, but they're also working on all of the costumes and
That's kind of
items that
interesting.
you can achieve in game. This is one of the summer backers items.
That
but
looks like something you like.
you
What was
get
this
to
one
see
fancy
called?
dress.
Majesty.
The
Majesty.
Majesty.
costume. Yes.
I love the shoulder work. That big pauldron.
And they're not in a
thing.
T-pose.
Yeah,
for
like
once.
the
That's nice.
iridescence in it too. It's really nice.
Yeah, the metal. There's the
Yeah, that's really nice.
the metal material looks good.
You're definitely not fighting in
And you can
that.
see it, how it light affects it too, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's
very
gonna look
cool.
really good in Unreal 5.
And then we don't always show a lot of these work in progress ones, but I think this one will be fun for you guys to check out, which is our little mushroom
What
one,
the hell?
Mascarian Marshall's version.
That's
But
interesting.
this is kind of getting to see the early versions of, how they create these costumes and then what they turn out to be.
So if he's hungry, can he just start eating his
Eating-
hat?
That'd be great.
Just like carve a little piece off and make like a portobello mushroom sandwich or something.
That sounds yummy.
What kind of mushroom is that?
I don't know.
Toadstool.
A toadstool.
It's big though.
It's a toadstool.
A mushroom nerd out there will know.
There you go.
The next one is, and the final one that we'll be showing is the Balmain. This is the bearded Balmain. Balmain.
Oh, look at that
Not
guy.
Bell.
So it's like,
Yeah. And I believe
It's
this
a
was
long
one you
horse.
designed, Steven.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's almost like a
Maybe I
zebra,
was watching like
but it's not striped.
a Charlie. Charlie.
I mean, its lines almost look
Charlie,
Dunier,
son
like
of an unbeliever.
because they're kind of angular. It's very much a Dunier
Hilarious.
art style.
But very cool, very different.
Look at the tail.
As you guys know, we
Shut.
make some strange creatures sometimes. This one's not as strange as some of them, but
It's just a
hope you-
long. It's a, maybe
It looks like
there's
that.
like
Definitely
two
looks like
people,
something that
those
has been
horse
bred through animal
costumes.
husbandry.
yeah,
That's what I feel
there's
like.
one
this
person
is.
on one side.
One
and the other.
dude's just like keeping his distance, and that's why it's so long.
To me, what's more weird is that he has like a cat tail.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, I designed that.
It's because he's
It's
so
like interesting.
long, and because of that length, he
balance.
needs something to balance a little bit. Yeah.
I like it. All right. And then with that, we will head on to our Q&A. So I will try to get through these as quickly
So
as
some
possible.
good
'cause
stuff
I know we're a
there.
little over
Py'Ray
time.
definitely
Our
look very
question
interesting. They
First to
definitely
start
look
us
like
off is
they're
to start
original.
us off is Burgund Iron Guard, and this is about enemy AI. Will enemy AI be aware of their environmental surroundings, and would ranged NPCs be able to use cover when fighting players?
Ooh, that's a good question. Some encounter design is going to, of course, use the environment, right? Whether that be from a hazards perspective, or there's AI that, at a certain hit point percentage or some condition is met, some predicates met, the behavior tree says, go run behind this corner, right? Like there is definitely going to be
Open my
examples of
Mountain Dew
that as
kicks
part
in
of our
here.
encounter designs. Whether that's going to be something that's heavily used as part of our general overland population, it might be, probably not as prevalent there. But yeah, that's something that's going to be available through our AA systems.
All right. And then our next question is from Fozuzu, and they want to know about naval content. Will any classes or archetypes have buffs or restrictions during naval combat, or will they behave the same as they do on land?
See, my question about naval related things is, will I be able to pick the lint out of it?
Specific class related interaction on the naval
Wait a minute,
side.
see if that sinks in.
There's definitely going to be elements of utility in class design that will be beneficial for naval gameplay. Whether or not
Can we do naval
that is going
gazing?
to be highly focused as
That's
a naval
another good
specific
question.
ability,
Can we do
probably
naval
not.
gazing?
But there will be some overlap with those utility skills and circumstantially what's happening at sea, right? For example, there might be some type of ability that a class has to hold their breath longer underwater, right? And that would be something that's beneficial, of course, at sea.
Probably be the Nakua.
If you go overboard, I suppose. Let's hope you stay on your boat as much as possible.
Absolutely.
Okay. Our next question is from Hurt May or Mai, and they want to know about climate effects. Assuming certain abilities are stronger or weaker in different climates, does that extend to the weekly seasons and the more varied weather changes across Vera?
Yeah, I think so. I think that the descriptors we use to define mechanically what a particular climate offers, from cold, arid, hot, those are going to be descriptors that are also incorporated as part of weather events. And during those weather events, those weather events, the area of effect that the event is occurring in will likely have its climate descriptor overridden by whatever the event is specifically. So tornadoes might be windy, blizzards might be cold,
Really?
right? And if
A tornado,
an Arctic
windy?
dragon
Really?
comes into a temperate climate, it brings the cold weather with it, and that can be interacting with skills and abilities or other functions like farms and whatnot.
We have a very interesting.
You only have 790
cats
likes.
Our next one is going to be from Dynasty Life, and they want to know about mounts. Will you be able to negate fall damage while mounted? And if not, would there be a reduced amount of fall damage or no reduction at all? And I know we've talked about fall damage before, but I don't think we've talked about
See if
while
we
you're
can
on
help
a
them
mount,
get to
what
800.
our intended solutions are.
I think the intended
There's a link
solution
to it.
for falling while mounted is that the damage is still going to occur, but it will first be soaked by the mount's hit points. And then if there is overflow and the mount dies as a result, then we'll have to determine whether we want that overflow to go to the character or if the mount will soak the overflow. But that's something that we'll likely test.
All right. And this one's from Neuro Guy, and they want to know about procedural generation. You've mentioned procedural generation catacombs under Divine Metropolises, but do you currently have any plans to use procedural generation for any other types of content? Like any examples for dungeons or raids or islands, etc.?
Sure. I think that procedural tools are good as long as that procedural is well defined and has specific parameters for which it exists and is not going to be visually or mechanically perceived as procedural, right? Like that to me is the gray area of using. I mean, obviously MMOs are huge, right? And wherever we can leverage procedural mechanics in such a way that does not appear procedural, we should. So there's a healthy blend between the things that we do in having defined parameters for it and then incorporating a procedural component. And in that sense, it will be perceived well. But where the predominance of kind of what we're implementing should be curated or by design.
Yeah, and we've shown some things. If you watched our last live stream, we showed the road system and how those roads will kind of be generated.
That was really cool.
As well as how
That
they'll
was
level
neat.
up based on nodes. So very interesting.
Right, and to be clear, like even on the road front, right, like
there's still restrictions.
Those paths are defined between each node prior, right? So they become visible and progress when the predicates dictate a node reaches a certain level, or some tree falls in the center of the road or something, right? So in a sense, those aren't really procedural per se, but they're kind of curated in those connections. But yeah.
All right. The next one here is from Overthrow, and they want to know about inventory. How much larger will a Metropolis warehouse's inventory be than a Caravan's inventory? And I know that's very specific. You might not have the answer to that.
Caravan's inventory.
That is the question.
Yeah, that's a very good question, actually. Trad's been doing a good amount of work with the inventory system, and we, I think, have really cool plans for Alpha 2 that utilize this unique inventory system.
One guy is really watching chat, I think.
What is the difference between capacity in a caravan versus that of a warehouse, right? So one of the things we're talking about with caravans is that resources get placed in crates, right? And caravans have crate capacity, and crates have different levels of quality. And the higher the quality of the crate, the greater diversity of materials can be stored within the crate, and the greater the capacity potentially. However, you would need a crate to transfer supplies back to a caravansary or back to a node, from which then you have the storage capacity in your warehouse or in your inventories. So transported goods by caravan require crate capacity first, and then can translate into storage capacity within a warehouse.
So there's a lot of steps to a caravan.
A personal inventory bag management.
You gotta get the items into a crate.
Just to give you a little bit of insight.
Caravan.
That's part of the direction that we've been going in iterating upon our inventory management system and how caravans interact with that inventory management and material resources. And then where those will live for Alpha 2 is going to be a lot of testing, of course, but there's some elements of that.
And like all things, we're in development, so everything's subject to change. So just keeping that in mind as well. But
right.
I would like an endless crate, Stephen.
An endless
A
crate.
bottomless
Nice.
crate, please. Thank you.
A crate and
We have
a
to
crate of
talk
holding.
to Trad about that.
Okay, Trad,
The
hook me up,
veritable
bro.
bag of holding.
Hook me up.
Yes,
Yeah.
there you go. The bag of holding,
Yes,
Yeah.
a crate
or
of holding.
the handy haversack.
Yes, yeah.
We can't
That's
have
funny.
those. Those are
Yes.
someone else's, but
Oh, sad.
our next question is from Bartik, and they want to know about freeholds. Will processing within freeholds be passive or require some kind of activity or mini game to work?
I missed the first part. What is it in freeholds you're talking about?
Will processing within
processing.
freeholds be passive or require some kind of activity or mini game to work?
Both. Right now, the proposal isn't that it's a mini game. I want to kind of stay away from the mini game aspect, and we're going to try it as an opt-in. But
Well, if you're
right now,
smelting, you don't need
processing
to
as
smelt
it
be there
stands
the whole
for
time.
Alpha 2's implementation is that there is a certain amount of prep work that's required first for the industry specific component, which is the building, right? That prep work might be finding a certain amount of lumber to light the fire in a kiln or whatever, right? To a certain temperature in order for you to process a certain grade of ore, and that grade of ore being malleable then into an ingot, right? And it produces that ingot, so to speak. Now, in that process, there's a gathering component, there's a preparatory phase, there is a time related component, and then there's also possibilities that the machine you're using itself has some type of gameplay layer should the kiln get overheated, or and you have to throw some water on it or something. Like there are elements there in that process that we kind of want to mimic, this gameplay opportunity for players to interact and not just be a time sink. But time sink is also a component of it as well, because that's the throttle for the introduction of processed materials from raw gatherables into the economy. So yeah.
All right. This next one is from Emberstone, and they want to know about mount skills. Will there be skills for mounts dedicated to making long distance traveling fun? And I know we have talked about mount skills already in the past. I think this is specifically about more like fun things they can do whilst they're traveling on their mount.
Yeah, I think that we've talked
mountain
about this in the
modes.
past, right? The ability to kind of do really big jumps and traverse interesting terrain and have gliding mechanics. And, those are all traversal elements that break up the monotony of a steady pace or of a, consistent path that you're taking, right? Those, I think, help break that monotony up. But then in addition, we have travel between nodes, right? That can be had, which is more almost automated to a sense, right? Either you take a flight path or your ground-based mount is like running along, and if you want to break them off that path, like you can interject. But
There's like an
if there
autopilot on
is,
the road.
from node A to B, you can travel faster than normal mount speed between node A and B, but you have to go to B before you go to C with that system. You can't go from A to C, so to speak, right? So that's something that we're working on as well.
Okay. And then we have our second to last, our penultimate question from Nia is about world building. What do you think about adding additional satellites surrounding Vera? An example being multiple moons or celestial bodies in the night sky. Who said there was only one moon?
Yeah, there are multiple moons. I think we've said that in the past.
Yeah.
There are multiple moons. Definitely the element of the night sky or even the day sky, I think, is a fantastical touch that is often a missed opportunity in games that we've played that are fantasy, right?
Well, and you
I
have the whole
do
portal system,
feel
right?
that
Like I can see us going back to
that the
Sanctus at some point.
sky box is a place where we can do a lot of fun and visually appealing and beautifully aesthetic things. So that is a component of the environment team.
Lighting is so important. It changes everything.
Yeah.
We're very well aware. And then we
And not
have
even just lighting. I'm just talking about like, seeing a colorful moon as opposed to the
Ooh,
gray,
yeah.
normal moon, right? Like seeing you know, the ability for some aurora borealis or something, right, in the night sky. Like
Yeah, even
the
RL
skybox,
Craft
the
has that.
skybox, in my opinion, is a real scene setting opportunity. And a lot of games, and I think more recently, a lot of games are emphasizing that, but the games I played growing up didn't.
I want to
for
go
the
on a
most part.
stargazing adventure. Like, bring your caravans with a bunch of like telescopes on them and just go out there and watch the stars and stuff. That'd be cool.
Absolutely.
Be a lot of fun.
When
All
somebody
right, our
comes
next
by,
question and
sees
our
your
final
caravan,
question
and
is from
attacks it.
Nayrock, wanting to know about naval combat. What kind of attachments will we be able to place on our ships? That's a really cool question. I want to know the answer too.
Yeah,
Naval
I think
rings.
I think those attachments live within 3 categories, right? They're offensive, they're defensive, and they're utility. And that's primarily the types of attachments you're going to come to expect. It's going to be, you know, ships are going to also have classes. Those classes are going to dictate the type of attachments that can be applied and in what quantity, right? Like a military vessel type may have more capacity for weapon-based attachments, right? A transport ship might have more capacity for
Cargo.
defensive-based attachments, and then you'll have more versatile ships that can share across those types. So, you know, in that sense,
Like
you
a
are
galleon or
constructing
something like
a
that. Corsair.
componentized ship for the types of activities you intend to do. Are you a raider? Are you a mover of goods? Are you an adventurer? Like, these types of things are going to inform your decision of what the attachments you're going to have in those 3 categories.
So who's going to be a
Right,
pirate?
very cool. And that is it. Anything else either of you guys want to add in here before we wrap up for today's stream? Another month has gone by.
Another month has gone by.
We're heading into March. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready. I'm definitely ready. No, there's been a lot of awesome things going on, and honestly, it's great that you guys in the audience are super patient with this Alpha 2 process. We appreciate that from a development side. We want to show you all the things.
So if you're watching this on
and
YouTube or Rumble,
as every
like,
month
subscribe,
goes by, we are getting closer and closer
whatever
to
you
showing
need to do.
you
Leave
some
a
of
comment.
these
Leave
new
a comment.
systems
Comments
and the
are
new
always
combat
best.
and the new art aspects. And we hope
I
you
do try
guys
to
are
respond to
enjoying kind of
comments.
watching along with that process, because it means a lot to us to get your feedback. It means a lot to us to see your excitement. That's always a very healthy and positive relationship between us as developers and you guys as the community. And the more you see things, the more you're able to spread the word about Ashes. So we appreciate that as well. As we start to get more things in a presentable state, I'm excited to see your guys' response to that. It's going to be fun next few months.
It'll be the most fun for my team too, because we get to write articles and make video content and share that along with you all as well. So I'm very excited.
Absolutely.
And thank you, Langford, for joining us.
Yes,
Thank you.
Brian, that was
Thank
fun.
you for having me. Am I muted?
Yes.
Yeah,
No, you're good.
Okay,
We
good.
can hear you.
Anything
Awesome.
you want to say to the community?
It was really nice to meet you guys. Thanks for hanging out with me today.
And happy 3 years, Brian.
Yeah.
Yeah,
happy
I
3
know,
years.
right? Happy 3 years. It's been great. I'm looking forward to the next 30.
Yes. Love it. 30.
For
You're
sure.
cutting us short. Come on, 60. They say they're going to be inventing something soon medically that'll let us expand the human lifespan by like 2-fold.
Wow. I hope they get that sooner than later.
I know, right?
I hope they get it within my lifetime so I can live longer.
That's what I'm saying.
I got things to do, man.
Yeah,
All right,
well,
with
only be
that,
available to the rich.
we hope that you like seeing the new race model for the Py'Ray. And if you do, definitely give us feedback. If you don't like something, let us know. We will have some more form posts up as well with feedback. So just give us all the feedback that you possibly can. We love it and appreciate it. And you're already seeing adjustments and changes, and you will be seeing those as we progress through our development process. Our February cosmetics will be swapping over on March 9th. So if you want those, get them now. And of course, thank you all for tuning in. And thank you to Brian and Stephen for joining me. I know y'all are busy. And to all of you, stay healthy and safe. We We appreciate you. And if you want to relive the action of this live stream, we will have it up on our YouTube channel, and it will also be cut up on our Twitch channel.
So they're just
as you saw in the concepts.
They're just basically just going to wrap things up here. So that is the February update. I'm all caught up now on the live streams. And so, yeah, thanks, guys, for hanging out. We had a new follower, Ashes of Creation, with a 3 instead of an E in creation. But it's always good to have new followers. Yodamu popped by. Stroud popped by as well. And let's see, how many likes is it still at? 795, almost at that 800. I hope I had something to do with that. So yeah, it's Py'Ray looked really good. I like that it's definitely a new take on a race, which is nice. You know, they did do some improvements to the models. They look like they have colds. They all, the humans have COVID, with the red eyes and nose and stuff like that. But no, it was, yeah, it was really good. Animal Husbandry sounds amazing. It sounds like it's far more complex than I think anybody had probably initially thought. So I kind of look forward to how that's going to work. It definitely sounds like it's far more complex than I think than what my my meager abilities are going to take advantage of. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching and hanging out with me here today. Please once again like, subscribe, follow, if you know whatever you're doing, and if you want to watch me actually stream video games like Valheim, RL Craft, you know, eventually, you know, the Alpha 2, when that goes live, hit me up on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/BeckAltar, and we hope to see you there. Big, huge thank you to all of my subscribers and my supporters: Upfront Poop Dog, Random Runes, Fenrir, Zero Air, Core Code, Tofu Beanie, Liger Gaming, and Stroud. Again, thank you all for hanging out with me, watching this Ashes of Creation February development update. We'll see you guys on the flip side.